Hello, and welcome to the Specialized Educator Certificate in Long-Term Care Level 1. This is a recording of the mandatory orientation taking place on October 16th, 2025. Welcome. The first part of our orientation is our peers and colleagues in long-term care will be sharing their name and location in the chat. There are a diversity of roles represented in this program. There are educators, staff development coordinators, DOCs, ADOCs, quality improvement specialists, and more, which are represented in the group and highlight many years of knowledge, wisdom, and experience. Before we begin, we just wanted to say to you, educators working in long-term care, that we believe you are a vital force in bringing out the best in long-term care. We believe you build capacity in all of the special people who live and work in long-term care, and we believe you bring valuable experience and knowledge to the sector. Beginning with our acknowledgements, I'd like to ask Rachel.
Thank you, Shayna.
You're welcome.
This work is supported in part with funding from the Government of Ontario through the Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care at Baycrest. The views expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the views of the province. And for a land acknowledgement, we acknowledge the Anishinaabes people in the Treaty 13 area. We wish to recognize the neighboring communities of Chippewas of Georgina Island and Mississaugas of Scugog Island, and the long history of First Nations and the Métis in Ontario, and show respect to them today.
Next, we have an African ancestral acknowledgement. We acknowledge all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. And finally, the Heritage Statement. Originally founded in 1918 by the Jewish community of Toronto, Baycrest has an inspiring more than 100-year history of exceptional community service and a ceaseless devotion to serving those in need. We live our centuries-old Jewish heritage by honoring our elders with respect and compassion.
So what we do here at the CLRI. The Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care strengthens the quality of life and care for residents across the province. We are a program of the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Long-Term Care that acts as a resource for the sector to enhance the health and well-being of people who live and work in long-term care. We do this by providing education and training, we share research and innovations, and we identify and develop resources for long-term care homes. The program partners with the long-term care sector to provide solutions for priority issues. We are funded by the Government of Ontario and are hosted at 3 different sites: Baycrest Health Sciences, Briere, and the Schlegel UW Research Institute for Aging. We'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our partners. So our program was refreshed in 2025 by the Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care at Baycrest Health Sciences. Our program was originally developed by experts from the following organizations, such as the BSO, Family Councils Ontario, the RNAO, Ontario Association of Residents Councils, and so on.
Thank you, Carrie. Now we will introduce you to the Specialized Educator Certificate and Long-Term Care team. Here's the team working on this project, and you will meet us in different capacities throughout the program. We are going to take a few minutes to introduce ourselves by answering 2 questions, and later on, those attending the session will be getting together to answer these questions with one another. The 2 questions are, What would you like your colleagues to know about you? And what are your best hopes for the course? Carrie, would you like to begin?
I'd love to. Thanks, Shayna. So, what I'd like my colleagues to know about me is two things. One is that I've worked in long-term care the majority of my career, which is stemming back from around 2007. So, I really have a passion for working with older adults and people who also care for older adults, especially in the long-term care sector. And I really like to cook most of the time. So, that is a little nugget about me. And my best hopes for the course is that you, as our learners, walk away feeling confident in what you have learned and that you can apply it to your daily practice. And I'm very much looking forward to learning with you. So thank you. Rachel, how about you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Carrie.
Mhm.
What would I like you to know about me? I was going to say similar to Carrie, I come from a background in recreation, and I have worked in retirement, long-term care, with the community, and have been with the Ontario CLRI now for 3 years. I started out as a knowledge broker, and a year ago transitioned into an educator role. And I also wanted to share that I am a very visual learner. That is how I retain knowledge, and I am so excited to learn from all of you and your experiences. My best hope for this course is to have enrichful conversations and to be able to learn from the experiences that you are seeing firsthand working in homes, and to be able to see this course impact that work that you're making every day. And Shayna, I will pass it over to you.
Thanks, Rachel. So, what would you like your colleagues to know about you? I have also worked in long-term care for quite my entire career at Baycrest in a variety of roles, and I'm very dedicated to the field and inspired by this work. Um, I also have a history of experience with dance and recently completed a master's degree in adult education where I focused on embodied learning. So I hope to bring some of that into this course with you. My best hope for the course is that you feel engaged and inspired, and that you are able to draw on your skills and knowledge and expertise as you learn. So, what we're offering is something you can take in, but you can also apply to what you're doing and make it your own. As for meeting the others, you will meet them as the course goes by. So, beginning with today's agenda, Carrie.
Thank you, Shayna. So here's today's agenda. First, we will begin with how we will learn together moving forward. We will introduce you to our Brightspace and LIFA platforms. We will then move on to learning a bit about our 6-step educator competency framework. And then we will wrap up and complete a very short survey at the end. So do stick around to finish that survey. It's very, very brief and it will pop up at the end. Next slide. Here are our learning objectives. I will read them through for you. Our first learning objective is we would like to just have you describe the importance of psychological safety in education, to be able to recognize the Ontario CLRI 6-step competency framework, to define a practice improvement goal, and then to summarize key relational approaches integrated into the 6-step framework. So finally, Shayna will take us forward after this slide, but what to expect is we will talk a bit about setting up psychological safety. We will review our community agreement together. We will discuss netiquette, and then you will go ahead and meet some of your colleagues. So I'll turn it over to you, Shayna.
Thanks, Carrie. So, beginning with psychological safety, we are going to begin with this concept, which was first defined by Amy Edmondson in 1999, who at the time was a professor of organizational behavior at Harvard Business School. She defined psychological safety as a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. Why is psychological safety important in long-term care? Amy showed that teams with higher psychological safety were more likely to engage in learning behaviors, such as asking questions, sharing mistakes, and seeking feedback, all of which improved performance and innovation. As a result, we recommend that educators establish psychological safety prior to having conversations with their teams or during training and education programs. And that is why we wanted to do that first. So, how do educators foster psychological safety? We have three approaches. The first is the basic assumption, which we will present shortly. Educators also foster psychological safety by clarifying expectations and attending to logistical details. So, the basic assumption, which was coined by the Harvard Medical Simulation Team, states that we believe that everyone participating is intelligent, capable, cares about doing their best, and wants to improve. And this is an opening statement that we can share with those who are in our learning environment to express that we are assuming that we are all here together to learn something new and to improve. Next is a community agreement, which Carrie is going to share.
So, a community agreement is a list of guidelines that help create a safe, respectful, and welcoming space for everyone. It includes things like using kind and inclusive words, respecting each person's identity, listening carefully, and focusing on ideas instead of the person sharing them. In our learning environment, the community agreement is used to make sure that all voices can be heard and valued. This language, this document, can actually be found in our course LMS Brightspace, and you may use them in your work if you wish. So netiquette, this might be a new term for some, but we wanted to clarify some expectations related to learning online. So the first one discusses camera use. We do encourage everyone to turn their cameras on. We do understand that sometimes due to bandwidth, privacy, or video fatigue, it may not be always possible. So in this case, please use emojis in the chat and unmute to interact with us and the group. The next is about the chat. So please use the chat to participate in discussions and activities. We also welcome your questions, comments, and reflections. We do our very best to monitor the chat to respond at designated pauses and by the end of the session. Please be sure to rename yourself in Zoom if you haven't already, so that we know who you are, what you wish to be called, and for attendance purposes. If you do need to step away for whatever reason, please private message one of us, so Shayna, Rachel, or I. So we do, when we do interactive activities, we know who is there and who might have had to step away. And if needed, we do very much encourage you to stand, stretch, move your neck around, stretch your arms while sitting in our session, because it is tough to sit for a little while. So please do feel you can do that.
Thanks, Carrie. So at this point in the orientation, we would ask for reactions to this piece on psychological safety. Please take a moment to think of your reactions and note them down, or just think about them, and we will be coming back to psychological safety each session. This is the opportunity to meet your colleagues, which we will not be doing in the recording. And now we're going to move into the 6-step competency framework. So we are going to begin by introducing the 6-step competency framework. You are the first cohort to experience both the revised framework image on this slide, which includes the relational educator approaches and the accompanying guide that is found in Brightspace, which you will be introduced to shortly, that amalgamates all the associated resources that were previously introduced in various parts of the course. Really excited for you to have these new resources, and our hope is that you find this framework supports you to be both strategic through these 6 steps of analyze, co-develop, adapt, facilitate, coach, and evaluate, as well as relational with collaboration, appreciation, and experiential learning in your work as educators. So, some overview about the 6-step competency framework. This framework was developed to meet the needs of long-term care educators through the process of planning, delivering, and evaluating education. This innovative framework is effective in long-term care because it combines strategic and relational education approaches to improve your ability to meet targeted practice improvement goals. These approaches help educators develop a relational educator approach or practice that centers on relationships, values strengths, and fosters growth. As you move through the 6 steps of the framework, you are not just implementing education, you are shaping a culture of relational learning in your long-term care setting. And as you can see in the final bullet on this slide, that each of our synchronous training sessions will cover one of these 6 steps. Carrie, could you talk to us about the practice improvement goal?
I would love to. Thank you, Shane. So as you can see here, the practice improvement goal is right in the middle of our framework. And this is the strategic part of our framework. The practice improvement goal at the center is a key part of our framework because this goal is what you're targeting with your education. So what exactly is it? Simply stated, a practice improvement goal is a desired positive change in team member behavior, skills, values, or attitudes. A practice improvement goal that is defined by the educator and the leadership team, and it helps to ensure that the education is not just informative, but also actionable, and it clearly guides staff towards observable and positive change in their practice. So why choose a practice improvement goal? Focusing on one clear practice improvement goal helps educators direct their efforts to be strategic about which practice improvement goal will be most helpful in supporting team and organizational priorities. So choosing a practice improvement goal happens before you dive into the 6-step competency framework. So how do you do that? First, you choose an education program. So you want to choose a program that you're responsible for implementing. If you have several to choose from, perhaps select one that can be adapted to fit your team's specific setting. It is meaningful to the people who live and work in your setting, and it's a priority for your organization. Next, you want to understand the why. Think about who you can talk to in order to better understand the rationale for this education program. Here are some examples of questions you can ask your team to better understand that why. For example, why is this education a priority right now? What's happening on the team that makes this relevant? How does it connect with your organization's values? What measurable indicator is the organization hoping to improve with this education? So is there something on your strategic plan, in your Health Quality Ontario indicators, where this education and this practice improvement goal you're targeting will really have an impact? Third, you want to make a connection. So speak with those key team members and identify that practice improvement goal after you've understood the why. You want to choose one goal to highlight again, such as a specific knowledge, skill, attitude, or value that you want to work on that will have the most impact in your goals. Once you've completed this preparation, you're ready to move on to the 6-step framework, using it to strengthen how you implement your chosen goal. So here's an example of a practice improvement goal. In this example, the educator has identified or been given an education program to deliver that is a priority to the team and the home. In this case, the education program is a falls prevention refresher for PSWs. The educator has had conversations with key team members and leadership to better understand the why. In this home, there has been a rise in the number of falls. So the educator understands from leadership that the organization's goal is to reduce the falls by 10% this quarter. Then the educator and leadership work together to identify a practice improvement goal that focuses on one single area that could have a positive effect on the broader practice. So in this example, here on the far right, the educator and the leadership team decided that the practice improvement goal of the falls prevention refresh will be to increase the PSW confidence in using safe transfer techniques by practicing them together during shift huddles and receiving peer feedback. We can move on to the next slide.
Mhm.
And at this point in the live orientation, we would be doing a group activity. But if you're watching this recording, we encourage you to take some time and reflect on what relational education means to you.
Thanks, Rachel. So now we will talk about relational education approaches. Relational education is a teaching approach that emphasizes building strong relationships between educators and learners. Educators using this approach view learners as partners, adapting education to the interests of learners and the needs of learners, and fostering safe, inclusive spaces where people can reflect, grow, and learn together. Here are some key actions for educators using relational education approaches, which can also be found in the guide. And we will be reviewing and revisiting these at every session. So this is an activity that we are doing in the synchronous session, and it is something that you can reflect on, but we will not be doing in the recording. Think of a time you truly felt supported while learning and what made you feel that way. Carrie, would you speak to this slide, please?
Absolutely. So a little bit more about relational approaches and why long-term care educators would benefit from using them. We've kind of summarized this approach here on this slide. So relational education approaches makes learning more meaningful and relevant. So it shifts our education from content delivery to shared discovery. So they're not just sitting, receiving information, but you're talking, you're dialoguing together to find new meaning in education. Of course, being relational strengthens engagement between one another. So learners are listening to each other, they're taking time to share experiences, and that builds trust and engagement. Relational approaches helps to connect to real practice. So relational approaches look to hands-on and reflective approaches to help team members apply learning to practice. It builds confidence and motivation. So we really want to focus on strengths and success to encourage our team members to try new practice. It builds teamwork. So you're co-creating, you're collaborating, you're building an environment where ideas are built upon one another So, of course, that fosters collaboration on teams. And finally, our relational approaches leads to lasting change. So again, a relationship is built. So therefore, you are going to see better teamwork. There's more openness to new ideas. And of course, relational education combined with the six-step framework will hopefully turn learning into more lasting, improved outcomes.
Thanks, Carrie.
Mhm.
So at this point in the orientation, we take a break and then we get into the platforms we will be learning on, which are the Brightspace LMS and LIFA and Hypatia's Guild. So I would like to invite Rachel to begin orienting us to these platforms.
Amazing. Thank you both. Okay. So as Shayna just said, now we will orient you to the SECL learning platforms, and that is inclusive of the Brightspace LMS and LIFA, our serious educational game. Brightspace is the main platform, or what we consider our home base for the course. You will be able to access all your resources, Zoom links or team links, and the serious, nope, just Zoom links, and the serious educational game from the Brightspace platform. And so we're going to begin with Brightspace. You should have received an email with a link and a password to log into Brightspace. If you've had difficulty logging in or something's not working, we ask that you stick around at the end and I will provide support for you. And we're going to now jump into Brightspace and I'll give you an overview of what that looks like. So Shayna, do you mind if I start sharing? Thank you so much. Okay, can you see my screen? Beautiful. Okay, so if you've had an opportunity to log in, this may look familiar. And if you have not, that's totally okay. We're going to go over the basics now together as a group. So when you log in and you click your course, this is what you're going to be seeing, okay? And I wanted to introduce you to the main page, which is what you're currently looking at. On the left-hand side, you're going to see announcements, and those are announcements coming from Carrie, Shayna, and or I, and they are just updates, things to be mindful of if we want to communicate with you. This is where you will find those, and they'll pop up automatically, okay? So just keep an eye out for those. And on the right-hand side, you have a calendar. It lays out what's happening each week, what time our sessions are at, and just a general overview of the program. And that's all that exists on your homepage. I want to bring your attention up here to this navigation bar. This first one is content, and that's where you're going to spend a majority of your time while you're in Brightspace. So when you click it, this is what you'll see. On the left-hand side, there are a number of folders, and those folders have been broken down into topics and then for each week. So at the very top here, and if you haven't already, it's where we encourage you to begin. You have your course overview. And when you click it, you'll see a number of headings. And this is like an introduction, some of which we're covering today in our recording, or we're covering in our live session on Thursday. But we encourage you to look it over just to orient yourself before you continue further. The second folder we have here is our 6-step educator competency framework guide. This guide is the base to this program. You're going to need it on a weekly basis. It's going to orient you to the synchronous sessions. We encourage you to do readings before those sessions. And I wanted to show you where it lives. And so right in here, if you click this second folder, it is downloaded into Brightspace for you. And you can read it here, or you can download it to your personal device and save it on your desktop if that's something that would be easier for you to access. But this will be here throughout the entire course. I'm going to skip the LIFA folder for this second, but we will return to that. We have our relational educator resources. These are resources that the team have identified that we believe would be supplementary and helpful for you as you continue on. You will find that maybe Carrie and Shayna point them out during your live synchronous sessions, and they are optional resources, and we encourage you to come and check them out. And they are all embedded right here. Okay. These below, as you can see, have been broken down into our 8 weeks. Every week we have our live synchronous session, and we have our optional gameplay session. And all of these folders look the exact same. So let's do week 3 co-develop as an example. When I open that session, I have my synchronous training session. And if you click it, it will tell you what's happening. Just a general overview. If you wanted to take a look at the optional serious gameplay session, just a reminder of what that is. And you can also join from these folders. And then some of these have a supplementary reading folder. And those are resources that are specific to that week of the competency framework. Not all of them have it, but you'll notice if they do, that's what they are. And I encourage you to just work your way down each week, opening one at a time as we progress forward. At the top here in the same navigation bar, we're going to skip over to discussions. If you click discussions, you'll notice a topic has been started. And this is where we encourage you to come and ask questions, collaborate with one another, have conversations. You can have them amongst yourselves. You will be involved. We can loop in. And we wanted to have an open forum place for us to ask our questions so that everyone can see. Because if you have a question, you are likely not the only one. And so if you post your questions in this thread and you at Carrie, Shayna, and or myself, we'll get a notification and we can engage in those conversations as you progress forward. And this is available anytime you need it. I wanted to come over to the assignments folder. So there are technically 3 assignments in this course. We're not going to worry about what those are at this point in time, but they are going to come up. 2 of those are reflections, and one of them is related to the serious educational game. And I just wanted to show you where you're going to be working on those and submitting them. And Brightspace will notify you when it's time to do so. You'll hear about it in the synchronous sessions, but this is where they live when those words start popping up, okay? And the last one I wanted to focus on is LIFA, and that is our serious educational game. So can I just get in the live session, I wanted to take an opportunity to see how many people are playing games in whatever capacity. So just think to yourself if that resonates with you, and if not, that's totally okay as well. But we're going to talk about what LIFA is. So I'm going to come back to the content section, and I skipped this folder earlier, and I'm going to click it now. So what is LIFA? Okay. One of the learning tools you will be using in this program is called LIFA, and it stands for our Learning Interprofessional Healthcare Accelerator. It is a serious educational game that takes place in the world of Hypatia's Guild. Okay, and that's our lovely image down here. She's pulled from our game. A serious educational game is a teaching method that uses elements of gameplay to achieve learning outcomes. There is a lot of neuroscience behind why this type of learning works so well. And some of that is when we play a game, our focus is captured and we're less likely to drift mentally or lose attention, right? And so games also put emotion first and the content second. And emotion is how we learn. It's how we're remembering, and it's even how we can build empathy, right? And so in LIFA, we use a story set in Hypatia's Guild to help structure the learning. And as you move through the game, you will have opportunities to rehearse the skills that you're learning in our synchronous sessions. And you can access LIFA through Brightspace in this navigation bar at the top. Okay, so it's embedded here. Once you've logged in through that first time, if you click LIFA, it's automatically going to open that platform for you. And at this point, I'm now going to pass the screen over to Melissa, who is going to walk you through the game interface and show you how to navigate LIFA.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm just going to start sharing my screen. One moment. Okay. So before I begin, I'd just like to mention that you will all have received an email from us, from the CLRI team that will have your LIFA login credentials, and that will be your username and your default password for your LIFA account. I'll also just go ahead and paste it on the chat, as I would in the live session as well, so that anybody else who is trying to navigate through the login process of LIFA can do so with me in the live session. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my email associated with my account and my password. And then, so this is our LIFA login page. And like Rachel mentioned, once you have logged in for the very first time, this will be your account will be embedded into LIFA, so you don't have to do this again. But for the very first time, this will be the login page that you come to. And then once you click this green login button, it will get you into the game for the very first time. So I just want to take a second to kind of go around the platform and show you a little bit about the things that will help you navigate the game better. So when you first log into the game, this is what the LIFA game homepage looks like. And the first thing I want to make note of is the My Progress bar, which is on the left-hand side right here. Your game is out of 40 levels, so when you first log in, just please make sure that the levels indicate here is out of 40, which just ensures that you're in the correct version and you're not going to have any trouble going forward. And the other the feature is the My Badges, which I can click for you right now. And this displays all the badges that you'll be earning as upon completion for all of your quests in LIFA. So once you have gotten all of that, you'll be able to get your completion certificate by going back to My Progress and clicking it right here. And it's not showing right here because the certificate has not been uploaded, but this will be where you'll be able to find your certificate of completion at the end of LIFA. And the next kind of feature that I want to mention is our My Quest board right here in the middle of the game. You can always come back to it by clicking this My Quest icon on the top if you're anywhere else in the game. And this will display all of your active quests throughout the game, and they will unlock upon completion of the last previous quest. So it will unlock in chronological order, and you'll just be able to kind of navigate through until you reach the end of the game. And these are all your active quests at this time. But if you'd like to review your completed quests from your previous activities, you can go to complete right here, and that will show a display of all of your completed quests as well. And the second last thing that I'd like to mention is the optional how to play game, which can be found on under my activities on the right-hand side of the game page, which is this tab right here, optional how to play game. So this lists all of the different tutorial information, additional tutorial information, I might add, regarding LIFA, and you can view these at your own time, whenever you'd like. They're always accessible. And this just kind of gives you a little bit more of an overview about the different features around the game, all these icons that you see. I know it's a completely new platform, so it would really help to maybe take a look and see if you understand all the different components in the game as well. And the final thing that I'd like to bring your attention to is our LIFA help desk. So we have our own help desk portal where our LIFA support team members, myself including, can help you with any kind of LIFA, either technical or content related inquiries. And to find that help desk portal, you just need to go to the top right here where your profile can be found. And you click this question mark icon, and that will give you a drop down of the three different tabs that you are able to view. And you click the help desk tab right here. I'm just going to go in, and that will lead you to this pop-up, which will tell you exactly how to submit your help desk ticket. So all you have to do is either copy and paste this link onto your web browser, or you can click open in browser, and that will lead you to our help desk portal called Spiceworks. And you would just need to put in the email associated with your LIFA account and go ahead and log in and submit your first help desk ticket. And the last kind of item that I would want to show is whenever you open any kind of activity in LIFA, whether it's the help desk or whether it might be something else, which I can show you right now. I will open up an example for you. So just material in general. If you are ever kind of having a hard time trying to go back into the LIFA game page, you can click the LIFA icon on the top right here, and that will actually lead you back into where you started. So you will be able to always kind of go back if you ever get lost by clicking the LIFA link as well. And that brings me to the end of my portion of the LIFA demo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa and Rachel, for that fabulous introduction. So at this point in the orientation, if people had questions or were having trouble logging in, we would encourage them to stay. But since you are watching a recording of this, I want to suggest that you come to the gameplay session on Thursday. I'm just going to look up the date. It is Thursday, October 23rd. So you should have an invite for that in your calendar, and we will be available to help you answer questions as you get used to these platforms. And the final thing I want to add is I just want to say again what Rachel began with, which is that the LMS is the main platform and it's the home base. So you will be able to access LIFA, the game, the Zoom link for the synchronous sessions, the schedule, everything in Brightspace. So that's where we really encourage you to start looking around. So now I'm going to share a slide, the final slide. Can you all see this? Great. So this is our wrap up. So go into Brightspace, familiarize yourself, start playing the game, read the analyze step in the guide before the next session. So essentially I'm saying this is what we are encouraging you to do before we see you again on Tuesday. I think the dates are helpful. Tuesday, October 21st. So before then, please start playing the game. Read the analyze step in the guide, which is one page. It's not a lot of content. Familiarize yourself with Brightspace. And then we have a survey at the end of this session, which you will not be getting. And then I did mention support with Melissa or Rachel. Come to the game, the optional gameplay session. Can I just open it up? Are there other items, Carrie, Rachel, Melissa, to add at this point?
No, Shayna, I think you covered it well to wrap up, and I think Rachel and Melissa did an awesome job, so I have nothing more to add.
Okay. So thank you for being a part of this program. We really look forward to getting to know you, to learning with you, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.